Welcome back to Switch Direct with What is Battle Chasers? Well, that's what we're here to answer. We'll be doing a deep dive into the core mechanics, the controls, graphics, story, value, and give it a final score. So stick around to see what is Battle Chasers Nightwar. Battle Chasers' core gameplay is a welcome return to traditional turn-based role-playing games, where battles take place in a separate screen and you duke it out with your team of heroes versus the baddies. All the enemy encounters in this game are seen before they occur, both in the world map and in dungeons, so the enemy will be on the map, and walking up to them will start the encounter. As you progress through the story, you'll go down a relatively linear path of alternating between a bit of story, world map exploration, and then a dungeon. Each dungeon you choose your difficulty, which really means mobs are plus or minus a few levels from its base, and the rewards reflect that. So if you are a little ahead, you can up the challenge and the reward. The dungeons are also randomly generated each time, though you likely won't do them more than once as long as you are thorough and get all the loot and events. When in dungeon mode, you'll have to consider how to pace your mana usage and consumables so that you don't run out before the end, where there is a full free heal before the boss. You'll be able to manage this with your battle strategy as well as team composition. In the dungeons, you'll be able to find treasure chests, extra events that unlock secrets, as well as find lore that if you get them all, will give you bonuses to your characters. When in dungeon mode, you'll have access to dungeon skills, which depending on the character, could heal you out of combat, give you speed bonus to get past traps, or do damage to a monster before the fight starts. In battles, as said before, it is turn-based. You get to see the order of actions on the left side of the screen, and each action you choose will have a timing associated with it. There are instant ones that help build what is called overcharge, which basically is extra mana points you can spend. This is important from not running out of mana over the course of a large dungeon, and then also bigger abilities that use mana as well as take a certain amount of time to do, pushing you down the turn list, depending on how slow the action is. The overcharge only lasts for that battle, so you'll typically be doing a move to build it, then use it with a bigger move, and sometimes want to make sure not to kill an enemy so that you can use all the free extra mana for a heal before the battle ends, and you lose those extra points. You also can use burst moves. These are ultra huge abilities with a shared resource for all your characters and carries over between battles. These are battle changing moves that can really sway how a fight is going. They go up to 3 levels of power and resource use, so mid dungeons we'd often use 1 or 2 point bursts, but then try and save a 3-point burst for the boss to start the battle off with. They also have extra cool animations. There is additionally a crafting component to this game. It's not too in-depth, but does offer the best weapons in the game if you keep up with it. You do it by buying recipe books, collecting loot, which can be found on the ground or dropped by enemies. Then if you have enough of the correct components, you'll be able to craft it. If you use more than the necessary amount, you can make it a better version. If you just go dungeon to dungeon, you probably won't have enough components or money to craft everything, but enough to offset what you've found by replacing the weakest items. As you go through the game, you'll unlock 6 different heroes, of which you'll choose 3 at a time to be in your party. You'll be able to choose between Gully, who specializes in defensive tactics, as well as Earth-type moves. She fits a tank role, being able to taunt and reduce damage. Calabrito is a giant mech that has healing spells as well as good fire offensive, with his machine gun arm. Garrison, a sword-wielding damage dealer with straightforward high-damaging moves. Red Monica, the thief-like character that can use stealth and status effects to help sway the battle. Nolan, the second healer, with more magic casting abilities than Calabrito, but less physical offense. And Alum, a hybrid caster melee character with more advanced moves and tactics. You start off with just Gully and Calabrito, but then unlock the other remaining characters as you get farther in the story. It would have been nice to get them all at once or earlier so you could do subsequent playthroughs with different character compositions from the beginning of the game instead of always starting with the same ones. That said, each of these characters offered a lot of variety to how they played and do give reason for doing additional playthroughs just to see how it's played differently. Also, you can customize your characters with different perk choices that you can change at any time and provide a variety of bonuses. Some are just passive damage or defensive bonuses, while others give additional effects when combined with other stats or moves. This was nice as it let you easily adjust as you get more familiar with the characters and wanted to focus more on certain aspects of them, such as I found myself using Wild Shot a bunch for Red Monica, so I moved points away from earlier perks to be able to buff that move once I had it unlocked. Gameplay was satisfying and interesting. The battles stayed at a decent difficulty without feeling either too easy, unless I was overleveled, or too hard. If you do make sure to kill all the enemies you find as you go, you'll be just about the correct level as you progress, so you don't need to worry about grinding at any point in this game. Though we did have to backtrack a couple of times to find some legendary gear at the end. This wasn't too big of a deal and was kind of fun to do the hunt for unlocking these best weapons. Gameplay gets a 9 out of 10. Some battles can become a bit repetitive as you'll use the same quick attacks to finish them off and move on, but bigger, tougher encounters will have you thinking and engaged. At its core, this is a really satisfying turn-based RPG. If you like that kind of gameplay, then you won't be displeased with what Battle Chasers has to offer. Controls are for the most part responsive and well thought out. We played with both handheld and Pro Controller and it worked well in both. Some of the menus are a bit sluggish and not super intuitive as you want to cycle between pages or characters. You might end up switching characters instead of perk pages or vice versa a few times, but overall the controls were satisfactory. They get a 9 out of 10. The graphical style of this game is a definite bonus. It uses a comic book style to present the story, and the battle animations are all on point with cool looking abilities that are fun to watch from the beginning of the game all throughout to the end. The character models all look really great too, both the heroes and the enemies, though they do start to reuse enemy models after a while. The world map also has a comic book feel to its presentation as it is a hand-drawn world that, while mostly flat, looks great. The dungeons, on the other hand, go a different route and opt for a 3D style that sometimes looks nice and other times looks a bit dated and bland. Would have been nice if they kept up with the hand-drawn style in the dungeons and modeling instead of 3D. While the models look great, the dungeons could warrant some better graphics. Graphics get an 8 out of 10. Far from the most cutting edge, but the style of the models, animations, and story bits really helped carry it in this department. The story for Battle Chasers has the main characters getting attacked while they're flying their airship, only to crash land on an island, where they must first regroup, then get pulled into defeating Destra, who is threatening the land. This is the weakest point of the game, which is a real shame because we got the impression there was much deeper character development already done for these people, why they were together, and their larger goals. And this game as a whole just sort of seemed like a side adventure, such as a single episode in a series. Since this game is based on a comic book series, I would have hoped they could have done more with the major plot of their story, things that matter to individual characters, such as inclusions of their backstory intertwining with their current adventure. For example, Gully inherited special gauntlets from her father, which aside from the intro, they only bring up in side conversation from that point on. We'd love to see in follow-up games more attention put to the story aspect, as we saw a lot of potential there. Story gets a 7 out of 10. Didn't have enough focus on the main characters, but it kept you going with interesting visuals and plot points for a side adventure. Battle Chasers offers a fun and engaging turn-based RPG that, while sometimes bogged down with repetitive battles, is more often interesting and difficult. In addition to the main story, there is an arena you can compete in for bonuses and treasures, as well as a handful of hunts which are bosses hidden throughout the world. Doing all this content for the first time will take you about 30 to 35 hours. From there, you can do New Game Plus, which lets you start over at level 1 with your unlocked abilities and perks, and then you can play with different characters you didn't in the first run of it, or play them in a different way. The characters do have very different styles, so this will give some extra hours to people who want it. The game retails for $39.99, but is on sale every few months for around 60% off. So if you can wait a bit, this is a really good value, but even at retail price, this is a pretty good game to get if you love turn-based RPGs. Value gets a 9 out of 10. Overall, this game is fantastic if you're a fan of the genre. We really enjoyed playing it, and had a lot of fun with it. We hope to see more from this franchise again, but would prefer a larger focus on its story. The overall score for Battle Chasers is 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching. If you'd like this content and want to see more like it, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be sure to update you with the latest in Switch news, sales, and reviews.